Hey guys, it's Ollie from Rad Season. Welcome to another episode of the Rad Season Show. I'm super excited to be joined today by adventurer, TV presenter, and the guy in Dubai, the man himself, Paris Norriss. Paris,
How's it going?
good
How
man.
you
How are
doing,
you?
Ollie? Are you well?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. So whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in. Well, the guy in Dubai has got
He's
to
got to
be
be
in
there,
Dubai.
right?
They've taken away my passport, and I'm here at the moment and enjoying the winter weather because it's our season here. So
Mhm.
it's a good place to be right now, actually. So yeah, stayed here for the winter.
All right. And how's the well, I guess sort of during everything that's been going on. I mean, have you been managing to get around, and how's the like? Has there been any kind of like severe lockdown or?
Yeah, so we did initially when everything kicked off about a year ago. They took very firm, strong action, and we weren't allowed to leave our houses. I think that was pretty much the case across the world, but
Mhm.
we moved very quickly here. I mean, that's one of the, I guess, good things about having a strong leadership, or a leadership that can actually do things without criticism, is that when they say something, everyone does it. And so immediately it was like, right, it's law. Put your mask on. You've got to wear
Yeah.
gloves. You've got to. Initially, um, they maybe went a little bit overboard. I think maybe they did everywhere. We were only allowed to leave our house once every 2 days to get to the supermarket, and we had to get permission to do that through an app. But then obviously things started to loosen, and now, I mean, the only real restriction we have is we have to wear a mask, and we're
Mhm.
not allowed to have sort of big private gatherings. So
Yeah.
other than that, I'd say everything is pretty much, moving. If you go anywhere where there's sort of public seating, every other one is blocked, so you don't sit next to each other.
Yeah.
But we have an advantage here because the demographics are very much. There's a big bulge if you look at demographic curve around the 25 to say 50 age group, because we've got a huge amount of working expats here. So that means that the people who are either elderly or have pre-existing diseases or conditions is a very, very small percentage. So our death rate here is very low, and hence we can kind of operate a bit more freely than other countries can.
Yeah. And you've been able to get outside and stuff. I mean, you were saying you can get into the mountains kind of near where you are and.
Yeah, so the UAE is, it's not a huge country in terms of geographical uh, size, and so everyone thinks of it as a desert nation, but it is in Dubai. But you can go 45 minutes from here, and you've got mountains, and in Ras Al Khaimah in particular, and in Fujairah, you've got big mountain ranges there.
Mhm.
So every Friday, I'm going hiking, absolutely loving it. Because I think what everybody needs when we're sort of being cooped up is it's that mental relief of just being able to get some exercise, be out in the open, see some sky, hear the
Yeah.
birds. So it really, I mean, I do it for a bit of exercise, but really I do it to refresh my brain. And so beyond hiking in the mountains, I'm also a big scuba diver, and I love water sports. And generally you can do that, in you and a couple of friends. So it doesn't have to be large numbers of people, and you're away from most people. So that's been massively rewarding to be able to scuba dive and free dive. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Good
make the most
stuff.
of it. What about yourself
Uh,
in Portugal, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, we've like I'm pretty much in the same situation. Like I try and get on the mountain bike as much as I can for physical as well as mental, and just kind of being out and sort of being in the woods and kind of getting away from it.
Yeah.
Same with surfing as well. So like now that they've opened up the beaches were closed. You can go surfing for about a month. This lockdown, and then the last lockdown, it was completely closed as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's kind of we've got to do what we've got to do, I guess. So kind of everyone's trying to keep to the rules, but yeah, whenever I can get out into nature, that's what I'm doing. So.
Yeah. I mean, initially when everything happened, I was just continuing to go to the desert and everything. But there was a particular point in time where everybody was very opinionated. So if you put that on social media, everyone's like, stay at home. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm in the middle of the desert. I'm at absolutely no risk to anybody. But I realized that it wasn't going to be seen that way. So, and also when you're doing sports or adventures where the risk is actually quite significant, you're kind of summing things up saying, well, my real risk is not, what you're telling me it is. My real risk is that I've got to make sure that, I'm not drowning in the water here or something like that,
I was thinking about that. I was like, if I get injured surfing now and I've got to go to hospital, I was like, this is not good, it's like that. So then, I guess they were sort of worried about people, like any accidents happening, and then obviously like people congregating and hanging out together in the car park or whatever they were doing in and out of the water. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to take it back to how you got into sports, because we've got I guess a bit of a connection. So I went to a school called St. John's, just outside London, in a place called Leatherhead in Surrey, and you went to Millfield. When I heard this, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this school. They were pretty handy at rugby and football, and how did you find growing up and going there?
Yeah, so well, I was at Millfield for sixth form, so I actually went to a school about 20 minutes away from Millfield, a boarding school until then. And Millfield, as you all know, it was everybody's biggest match of the year because they were the big sports school. It was a well-funded school, I think it's fair to say, and you had a lot of athletes on big scholarships there, and so when I was at my previous school, our biggest match was always Millfield, and the way I got into it, it was always the discus throw that was the determination of who was the toughest guy, and it was a real big thing to be the toughest guy at my school because it was a real rough and tumble school. Nowadays it'd be outright cleared as bullying, but it was just what everybody did back then. You took it, you gave it, and that was just how it was. So you grew up pretty quickly in boarding school, but some friends of mine were throwing the discus on the athletics pitch, and they were doing quite well at it, and I thought I'd give it a go. And I seem to remember I wasn't as good as them, but I started training at it and I wanted to get good at it. And then my teacher said, you could probably give it a go at the Yeovil area. So I did that. I seem to remember I came second, and then I went to the counties. I got in the county team. I think I came third, and then I think I got in the regional team. So I did all right. Anyway, ended up getting to the nationals. Came fourth at the nationals for discus. Then I started getting into multi events, so decathlon basically. Okay. So that's 10 different athletic events, and I sort of went that way because I was already quite a good cross country runner. And I was all right at a few things, but I wasn't the most. I wasn't good at the jumps, like long jump, high jump. I wasn't so good at. But anyway, I started doing that, and I got to regional level, and that's as far as I got. But then there was one of the guys had to pull out of the team to go to the nationals, and I got called as a reserve, and this was like my big day, and I think I was only maybe 13 at the time, or 12. Yeah, 13, I think. And so I gave it a go, and I came 33rd. And I remember that was probably quite inspiring for me because I had those athletic results, and still to this day, I can tell you every single position that everyone came and every point they scored, because I used to obsess over those results because I came 33rd. But the guy who won it was the same age as me, and he'd got the British record every year up. So he was the champ basically. Anyway, so from 33rd, I obsessed over those numbers, and I started training. And I did a lot of weights. I got my own shot put, my own discus, and I was chucking them around the garden, and I was sprinting and running. And the next year, if I remember correctly, I came 7th. And I I managed to basically, actually, it's quite funny because there's now, I was just saying to my girlfriend, I think yesterday, at that time when I had obviously proven myself in athletics, my mum was starting to see that I had outgrown my school and that I needed to go somewhere else. And the place that she took me was Eton. And we went and took a look around Eton because they had something called the King's Scholarship. And my mum was always on it with, you know, how can I get my boy education and see if there's a scholarship or a grant or something? Because we didn't come from a wealthy family. So she needed to see what strings she could pull. But basically, I remember the headmaster saying to me, and the reason why I was talking about it the other day is obviously that's where Prince Harry went and is in the news right now. But I remember the headmaster saying, "Yep, that's brilliant. That you're a great athlete. We love that here. So get 12 A stars and come back and see us." And and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get that." So anyway, Millfield was a little bit more liberal, and they didn't mind you really investing your time into whatever your passion was. So if you're a great chess player or an artist or a musician or a sportsman, they didn't mind that you weren't such an amazing academic. As long as you got by okay on academics, you were allowed to pursue your passion. And I think that was a great philosophy for education, to be honest. And so I got a sports scholarship to Millfield, and it was interesting because I went from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a big pond. And I had a bit of an ego when I got there because I was so used to being, you know, the star boy of the school. And then everyone was like, you know, had enough of me pretty quickly. And I realized that maybe I need to pipe down because, you know, everybody else who was there was an incredible athlete or incredible at something. And it was great to be among such a great bunch of people. And, you know, to this day, those are my best friends from all the schools and universities I went to. Those are my closest bunch.
And what did you do? So did you take a gap year then after, before you went to uni, or?
Yeah, I took a gap year. I was, to be honest, I had no plans in life after Millfield. It's worth pointing out that I got an injury in my last year. So what I ended up doing is I progressed massively because I got picked up by the Great Britain decathlon coach, a guy called Ian Grant, and we trained together, and we went and did warm weather training before the season. And I had managed through the season to get myself to the point where I was ranked number 2 behind Edward Dunford, who was the guy who got the British record every year. So the Nationals was coming up, and I wanted to beat him in that Nationals. That was where I got to. But unfortunately, I ripped my groin throwing the javelin. As you can imagine, with javelin, it's a throw, but you lunge into it, and I ripped my leg. And after Millfield, I really didn't have any direction. And it's funny because it's something quite nice about having nowhere to go and no plan. You know, you do have a slight lost feeling, but you know, there's something quite nice about it. And anyway, I was lazing around, and one of my friends had moved to Paris, and he said, "Look," Millfield also had a lot of very wealthy kids there, and one of my friends was the son of a sort of New York tycoon, and he used to love my bad ideas about how to get up to trouble. So, and he would just fund us going to hotels and having a crazy time. So he basically bought my ticket to Paris, and I got a futon and slept in his living room, and we just had the best time of my life. That year, being 18 years old, living in Paris. He was at a chef school, which I joined for a bit, and then I quit and went straight into working in a restaurant. And then I saved up some money, and then went traveling around Asia with some other friends of mine. And I mean, we just had the best time of my life because we had no responsibilities. We were like rock stars without talent, you know, just pure antics. And then I landed back, and it was a couple of months before I started Edinburgh University.
Okay. Yeah. And you were studying finance. What made you pick that? Like coming back from traveling, was that sort of something that you thought you know, like were your friends doing it, or you know, like it was something that you kind of
Yeah,
thought that
no,
you should be doing, or what was the?
so actually I started, I had got accepted for sports science.
Okay.
So I did that. And then as my second elective, I chose business studies. And then it became clear to me because my brother had come back from a long time in Asia. At the same time, I came back from my travels. And he's 22 years older than me. So he had been an entrepreneur and he'd made his money and lost his money. And, you know, he had, you know, stories. And we basically set up a little business together, and he taught me a lot about sort of the entrepreneurial finance stuff. And so when I started university with business as a side subject, it became clear that not only was I better at that, but that was going to be more useful to me, and that was the way I was going. So I managed to convince them, you know, that it would be a better idea for me to just take business studies from the second year onwards. So that was a good move, I think. So why did I choose finance though? I don't know. I think one of the things that would annoy me at university is sometimes you take subjects where the answer isn't definite, it's subjective, and it's more
Yeah.
about how you put your argument across. And sometimes I get great marks in that, and sometimes I wouldn't. And I never really see the consistency about, you know, when I get good marks and when I don't. And I didn't like that. But with finance, it's far more it's far more objective. It's calculations, and there's a right answer, and there's a method to that answer, and you can learn it. And I thought, well, it's possible to get 100% in finance. So where the other ones I felt it was just it would never be like that. So I focused on it for that reason, and I think I was naturally better at that type of kind of arithmetic.
Okay. And then coming out of university, I mean, that's when obviously like the financial crisis was happening, right?
Yeah,
So like, what were you thinking then? I mean, what was going through your mind?
yeah.
You
Well,
just
it was interesting
graduated, and
because
then
when I started university, I used to ask people, you know, I'd say, so what subject are you studying? They say medicine. I said, so what do you want to be, a doctor? They're like, I don't know what I want to be actually. And then you ask someone else, and nobody seemed to really know what they wanted to do. I knew I want to set up my own business, and I liked finance, and I thought of my strategy was to get a job in an investment bank, get kicked around in a big company for a while, and then go set up my own business. So nobody seemed to know what they wanted to do for the whole 4 years that we were there. But then just in the last 6 months, when everybody's sort of doing exams, everybody seems to want to be an investment banker. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I've actually been studying this. You know, like why do you think you could be an investment banker? I was not only doing my master's in finance, I was doing my CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst course. So that was an additional thing. And then I did my regulations papers, my securities and derivatives. So I was like getting overqualified by the time I came out. And unfortunately, bad timing, because, you know, 2008, at the start of my last year of university, Northern Rock crashed. And by the end of the year, Lehman Brothers and everyone else had gone down and out. And I remember going to an interview, and I said, you know, we went through the whole process. It seemed great. And I said, you know, how was I? He said, oh, yeah, you're great, Paris. You've got a lot of potential. You go well. I said, so do you think I've got a chance? He said, look, Paris, I'm just going to be frank with you. We fired 8,000 people this morning, and it's very unlikely. So if you've got other options, you know, pursue them. And I realized that was the situation. And I mean, it's maybe worth me telling you a story about the moment that I realized, you know what, I'm going to go set up my business. I went to see a guy called Jeff Halpern, who had I had worked with on a project, because me and my brother were working on a finance project, and he was part of one of our projects, and he had got himself a senior position at Deutsche Bank, and I went to see him really to try and blag a job at Deutsche Bank, because I knew he was setting up a new office in Mumbai, and I thought maybe if I can, you know, show him that I'm willing and keen, that he'll take me on. And he just sat me down. He said, listen, Paris, never has there been a more difficult time to get into finance. Not only do you have people losing their jobs left, right, and center, and people who are in senior mid-management roles now taking analyst and low-level roles just to stay in the game. You've got competition from China like we've never seen before. These guys are willing to work every hour of the day. And it's a very difficult time to enter the highway. So if you want to enter a congested highway and try your chances when your chances are very small, be my guest. But you should know that it might be a disappointing process. Or you can take a side lane while the highway is congested, and enter it later when it's less congested, and pick up some skills along the way. And a side lane could be getting into insurance or consulting or another type of business that you'll learn some skills which you can enter banking later if you decide that that's what you want to do. And I thought, okay, that seems to make some kind of sense. And then he said, or the third option is you could be an entrepreneur. And he said it and his eyes lit up. And I was like, well, this is kind of what I want to do. But I thought, if I did 2 years working in an investment bank, then I would learn some things about business that would teach me about business. And he said, Paris, nothing you'll ever learn at a large company will teach you how to set up a small company. He said, look, I manage the ultra high net worth clients for Deutsche Bank. And that's people with 30 million in net assets plus. He said, not one of my clients works for anybody else. And not one of my clients has ever worked for anybody else. And I just folded up my notebook, shook his hand and said, I'll see you later. And I made my mind up. That's it. I'm going to go and be an entrepreneur, because I realized, oh, no, sorry, there's one more thing he said to me, which was important. And he said, the only thing that's different about them making millions and millions and me sat in my safe job, earning, enough just to get my family by, is that they're the type of people that don't sit on the fence. When they think about something, they go and do it, because they're not any different to me in terms of how more intelligent they are than me. They're not any better at communication. They're, it's really difficult to say that the entrepreneurs that he deals with are so much superior than he is in any way. But they do have a difference in their mentality, that they're willing to take risk and just get up and do it. And that was my push. And I just said, right, I'm out of here. And I went straight back to university, started chatting with all my mates about, let's set up a business. And of course they were like, yeah, let's do it. But nobody actually sort of took it seriously. But one of them did. And he called me up a day later and said, that was really interesting what we were talking about yesterday. Let's grab lunch and talk about it more. And we did. And we put some ideas together. We had about, I think, 8 or 9 business ideas that were good potentials. A few of them looked like they were a little bit more possible. And one of them was an idea to set up a financial intermediary that we looked like we had funding for. And we were going to do it in an expatriate hub, because we had a link to a company that was looking for expatriate clients. Right. And where were the expatriate hubs? Hong Kong, Singapore, maybe the US, some places in Europe, and Dubai. And Dubai was the one hitting the headlines because it was the fastest growing one. They're building the biggest building in the world. So we came here in May 2008 to basically check the place out and see what it was all about. And I seem to remember I had finished my exams, but I had my CFA exam, and I turned up to the CFA exam and no one was there. And I realized, oh no, I've got the wrong day. It's tomorrow. And tomorrow I had booked my flight to Dubai, and the difference between them was about an hour. So I went to my exam and I took my luggage with me. And then as soon as it was over, I ran out the door with my luggage, and Pete was on the phone and he was saying, Paris, like, I'm on the plane, hurry up. And I was like getting to the airport. Anyway, we made it. And it was quite a funny experience, because we had researched it and we'd figured out that the DIFC, which is the Dubai International Financial Center, is the place to be for business. And so we had managed to book ourselves a meeting with the head regulator of the DIFC. So that's a little bit like, yeah, I mean, like doing that in the UK would be almost impossible, and it's pretty difficult here. Anyway, these guys sort of looked at us, and we're unsure who these young guys were. And this other lady was obviously paid just to give presentations, and she had a 40-page presentation. And after about page 5, they just said, "Excuse me, can you go to focus on that page there?" And he chose the page second to last, and said, "Okay, super. By the way, guys, what is it you want to do here in the DIFC?" And we said, "Right, we want to set up a reinsurance brokerage." And they said, "Right, we don't permit that here in the DIFC." I'm like, "Okay." And we were like stumbled for a bit, because like I'd read this document this thick, and somehow I hadn't seen anywhere that they didn't do that. And they basically walked out laughing at us. But, you know, it was an interesting experience. You know, when you're that naive, you almost think that anything is possible. It's easy, right? And you get kicked around a bit till you start to learn about, you know, what is real and what isn't real. And this is what we needed to learn. You know, university doesn't teach you that. And, you know, to this day, I'm still learning. But having been kicked around for the last, 12 years of business, you do develop an instinct for, what's an opportunity, what's a false opportunity, what you shouldn't waste your time on. And, you do learn that through the process.
And that company, that was Must Compare, right? Which you guys set up. Is that right?
It was, yeah. So basically, what happened was we went to Dubai. We had this idea. It was to set up a financial brokerage for expatriates. And because I had previously, when I was at university, been to a conference, an insurance conference, God knows why at 23 years old, I was so crazy about insurance, but I wrote my whole dissertation on it. And I went to this conference, and everybody was really angry with these guys like Money Supermarket and Go Compare, these companies that had basically taken the market with insurance comparison sites, aggregators. Yeah. And brokers were furious because they'd just taken away all their business. And I put that in my business plan as stage 2 of what we were going to do, because obviously that was a more advanced thing. And anyway, I mean, we had a bit of issues in terms of the funding that I thought we had. We actually didn't have. And, that was a big learning process. And, we fell flat on our face about 6 months after we tried to set this up. And that was at the time, it was a real mess, because I told everybody, yes, we're moving to Dubai. We've got this business. We've got the funding, as if, I'm some hotshot who just pulls magic out of thin air. And, it all went wrong pretty quickly. So I had to rekindle. And I took that business plan. I thought, well, who do I know who might be interested in this? And one of my friends from Millfield, his dad had set up banks and insurance companies in the Middle East, and he'd done extremely well. And I spoke with him, and he said, "Oh man, you speak to my dad." And I remember I was staying on my friend's sofa for about 3 months, and I would get all my coins, and I would go to the call box and call him in Oman, because he was based in Oman, and I was putting like 50p's in every like 10 seconds just to keep the phone going. And just thinking back about how I was, but there was only one way to go, and that was to give everything to try and get this business going. And basically, long story short, it took a bit of time. I seem to remember it was about 8 months, of which I went and worked as a chef, because I really wanted to be a chef, but I never wanted it as a career. So knowing that I had the funding on, and that it was going to take about 6-8 months, I went to be a chef. And after work, I'd go to McDonald's with my laptop, and because it was free Wi-Fi, and I'd just plug away at my business plan and develop it more and more. And then I got him on as an investor, and I moved over to Oman. And I think when I moved to Oman, because I'd been talking about doing this and telling everybody that I was going to set up this business in the Middle East, just being on that airplane was a signal of success to me, because I was like, you know what,
you've done it. Moved over, right?
Yeah, I hadn't made any money yet, but I had at least secured what I said I'd do. I got the investment on, I got someone to believe in me, and I've done what I said I was going to do. And I think that's been a real driving force for me, is that I really hate not being able to deliver on what I said I was going to do. If I say I'm going to do it, I really want to be a man of my word and do it. And that's not always possible, but I make that a motivator for myself. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it to drive myself. If I say, right, I'm going to do this, I know that it's happening because I've made it public. I've said that I'm going to do it, and now I'm going to move hell and earth to do it, because it will kill me if I said I was going to do it and it was a false promise. So we set up Must Compare, and that was my first step into business. And I went from working as a chef and spending my evenings in McDonald's on the computer, to having a team of 30 web developers that I was the CEO of, and liaising with some pretty heavy business people. It was a real satisfaction that I was doing what I said I was going to do.
And that was then, I mean, that was growing pretty quickly then, right? I mean, if you were kind of from scratch and then had 30 developers and sort of building out the team, how long did you run the company for before you?
Yeah, so I ran it for 3 years, and basically I ran it for 3 years, and then I exited early. And I exited early because when I got involved, I mean, you can understand, when I was, putting 50p's in the phone box, I just needed an opportunity to break out, Yeah. And here's a guy who's offering me investment, and I certainly didn't have any other options. So that was, do it. It was the only thing. But as you go through the process and you start realizing your worth, I realized that I had two options here. I had an option to stay in the business and try and grow it, but I realized that my business partner, I don't think he valued me that much, and he had found ways to kind of dilute my shares, and it had dwindled down to something that wasn't that significant, as well as we kept pushing the launch time back and back. And this is the problem when you develop technology. You get to the finish line, and then you push the finish line a little bit further, and then you get there and you push it a bit further. And he was determined that we were going to dominate the world before we'd even launched. And I realized that this setup probably wasn't going to lead me the way that I wanted to go. Meanwhile, I had developed some really good relationships whilst I was in Oman. One of them was with a guy who was part of the founding team of CNN, and he was the head of the Middle East region. And he knew firsthand all of the sheikhs and the kings of the region. He was a very well-connected guy, and he very much sort of took me under his wing, almost like a sort of mentor. And a lovely guy, still one of my best friends today. And he saw this, young guy setting up businesses in Oman, and thought, technology companies of all things. And he thought, this guy's not your average guy. And he wanted to introduce me to one of his friends in Dubai, who I think you could fairly say that underneath Sheikh Mohammed, he was his main action man. He ended up with $380 billion worth of projects under his wing, because he just executed and executed, and Sheikh Mohammed gave him more and more projects. And just an incredible guy who achieved things that, it's hard to fathom what he did achieve. But essentially, he was in charge of making the action happen for these visions that Sheikh Mohammed had in a period in Dubai, which, there was an insane amount of growth. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to introduce me to him, which was a pleasure. And I found him massively inspiring. And we maintained a friendship. And then at some point he said, look, I don't know what you're doing in Oman and whether that's still going for you and whether it's working out, but do you want to be the CEO of my new businesses? And he had this idea to do a leadership development business. A key part of what he had really focused on in business is developing leaders, especially in an Arab culture, because it's a different culture altogether. We have sort of leadership models from the West that consulting companies tried to copy paste here, but it didn't work. But he was able to develop a very unique method of leadership development that worked for the Arab culture, and he was also incredibly well connected. So he was able to bring on big leaders to create a mentor program where we were connecting up and coming entrepreneurs, CEOs, athletes, whatever they were, and connecting them with people who'd been there and done it and can talk from experience, not just from some kind of education, but actually be able to sort of say, when I was in this situation, this is how I handled it,
Yeah.
And so basically I had to, there was a dilemma, throw away the business that I had dreamed about doing for so long, and I worked so there we go.
We're back.
We're back. So I thought maybe it was my Wi-Fi gone or something.
Okay.
We're back. So where was I? So yeah, I was in a dilemma, and the dilemma was, when you've been dreaming about setting up a business and now you've gone and done it, and you've been counting the numbers. I'd constantly be drawing like projections of what we were going to make, and then you have to say, okay, you're going to kiss bye-bye to that dream if you move on. But then I thought, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint, and this is, I need to align with the right people. There's more that I have to learn, and I'm still in my 20s at this stage. Maybe I'm 27, and I realized that it's more important for me to align with people that inspire me and that I feel there's more future with. So that was my move from Oman to Dubai. And we set up that business and a few other small businesses as well.
Nice. And did back then, were you just sort of looking at all the development that was happening in Dubai and thought, this is the place that you wanted to be, and that there was a lot of opportunity there at that time?
Yeah. So when I got here with my mate from university in 2008, the Burj Khalifa was 2/3 built. There was rumors of them building one twice the height and one that was going to be 1 kilometer squared. Apparently 38% of the world's cranes were all in Dubai, so you could almost say that more than 1/3 of the world's construction was taking place in one city. It was a place that was limitless, and it was a place where what Sheikh Mohammed was saying was inspiring, where everyone was looking at all these amazing things that was going on, and he says, we haven't even reached 5% of my vision, and it really got people believing that that things can happen here. And I think I was drawn to Dubai for that reason, the kind of limitless nature. And one of the things that I guess frustrated me about the UK was, especially being a young guy in the UK who naively believes he can do anything and has a lot of energy. I always felt that there was this kind of a pecking order. You have to work your way up the ladder. You can't have a meeting with a very top-end CEO if you're just out of university. You sit your turn, and you're a trainee, and and there's an order, and people don't like you skipping steps in the ladder because they're finding it difficult and they don't like that. So you come along and say, look, I'm gonna set up a business, I'm gonna do this and then the other, I'm gonna make millions, I'm gonna be a TV show where I'm gonna be the guy in Dubai. And if I came out with those kind of wacky ideas, you get shot down in the UK, and we're incredibly critical anyway, and people aren't scared to shoot you down. People really don't mind just telling you that they think what you're saying is a load of rubbish. And you know, that's difficult to break through. It's difficult to really go, you know, to not listen to all that and to just get on with it. And
Yeah.
I just found that the atmosphere out here was positive, and everybody was trying to do what I was trying to do. And that for me was inspiring, and that's why I came. And you know, I'm still here for the same reason, to be honest.
And it's quite a young population as well, right? So it's not like, yeah, I guess things were moving quickly. People were like coming up with these ideas, and yeah. I mean, what happened when you kind of thought, okay, you know, you wanted to get into something else, and you looked at like presenting, and then even like before you even produced before you produced your own show?
Yeah, well, when I set up the Mentor Leadership Development Company, I found myself getting into a lot of public speaking. I ended up doing a lot of trainings and things like that. And the way I looked at it was, you know, I was 27, 28 at the time, and it was nerve-wracking going up in front of 300 people and giving a talk. But I thought, well, go and make your mistakes now, because you better have it sorted by the time you're someone important. Because if you're someone important and you can't string a sentence together in front of 300 people, and you can't inspire and move people, then you've lost it. So I was like, you know what? I'm still young. Get out there, get my ass kicked. And I just took on every speaking event I could. I was everywhere. And it was easier to do that in Dubai than I imagined it would be in the UK. There are a lot of events, and you know, also I'm an English speaking mother tongue nature, you know, English mother tongue. So it gave me a little bit of advantage here. So I didn't realize that was going to take me somewhere, but I got a lot of practice at that. And then that business ended in a messy way, unfortunately. It ended with a fallout between partners, and even ended up getting sort of legal threats and stuff like this. And it ended in a way that I wasn't, you know, that you don't want business to end that way when you start off with all the good intentions, and you know. So it was disappointing, but that formed a lot of my thought process after that, because I started to collect my thoughts, and I thought, well, if, you know, I'm going to put all of my time and effort into setting up another business, and if that business, you know, and I was working night and day, you know, not seeing my friends, not spending my weekends, you know, I was working all the time I could. So if I was going to be sacrificing all that, even I remember sacrificing Christmas Day, and I didn't see my family and things like this when because I wanted to get this business off the ground. I thought, if I'm going to sacrifice that, and I'm doing it for some pot of gold at the end, which you may or may not get. Maybe if you get it, you won't get it till much, much later. You have to enjoy the journey to get there. It can't be that you're sacrificing in order to get there. You need to come up with something where the journey to get there is giving you your ideal life. And then I thought, okay, that's an interesting thought. What is my ideal life? Because we're conditioned, especially when you do things like university, and you go through the same kind of funnel that everybody goes to. You know, you go to a good school, you go to university, then generally speaking, you go into investment banking or consulting, and you know, you're all funneled through the same process. And we all started to think that what we want in life is to be the CEO of a business. But when we think about it a bit deeper, we realize, well, is that really what I want? You know, when I was 8 years old, is that what I wanted? I was like, well, not really. I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to climb Mount Everest, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to have amazing fun with my friends, and I want to spend every Christmas with my family, you know, and be there when I needed to be there. So I started to paint this picture in my head about what an ideal life is if I didn't have to work for money. And it certainly included a lot of adventures, a lot of travel, and taking on challenges, you know, that really would make me feel alive, you know. And I thought, okay, well, how do I make money out of that? And I, you know, and I'd understood a little bit about productions and things like this. And I thought, well, the great thing about this is if I can convince a channel that this is entertaining content, that I'm going to be the guy that goes and does all these wacky things, all the limitless things that happen in Dubai, like people racing jetpacks along past A380s, people base jumping off of the Burj Khalifa, all these crazy things that have happened here. What if I was the guy, right, who goes and tries it and takes it on? And if I can convince a channel that I can create an entertaining series and they've got viewership, then on the back of that viewership, I can get sponsors. And sponsors will pay me for that production, and they'll pay me up front, which is always the dilemma in any business, is how do you get capital? How do you get money? So I understood that mechanic because we had worked on some smaller productions in my previous business. So I thought, okay, well, that would allow me to live the life I wanted and to make money from doing the things that I want to do. And that started the idea of Guy in Dubai. And it wasn't like I thought about it and then the next day I just went and started it. It was a longer process than that. I started doing it on social media a little bit, and then I signed up for another TV show to get a bit of sort of media exposure and a bit more familiarity in front of the camera, which was a boxing TV show. It was a competition, a reality TV show. So I did that. I ended up winning it. And then straight after that, I was like, right, it's now time that I do this. I do my Guy in Dubai thing. Set up the Guy in Dubai web page, and then I started filming. And I filmed 4 pilot videos, and then with those pilot videos, started pitching it to channels and speaking with people. And a channel actually got in touch with me, and they're the biggest sort of satellite provider in the Middle East. And that was basically what I rolled with, and signed a contract with them. Although it took a long time. All of this took a long time, by the way. I mean, you know, I thought it was going to happen quicker. I thought I was going to be where I am now. I thought I was going to be that in 2017. But the thing is I have absolutely no problems that it's taken me longer, because I did it to enjoy the journey. Yeah. And I'm ready to go for another 30 years of this journey, you know, and that's the difference when you choose your passion, because when you focus on something that you love, if you're not making money, it doesn't matter. You know, you're going to keep grinding and do it. If there's tough times, you know, it doesn't matter. If things take longer, it doesn't matter, because if you're really enjoying the work, this is a marathon that you are, that, you know, one day someone will say, you know, not too far from now, they'll say, wow, the overnight success, you know, and you'll be like, oh, really? You know? So, yeah, anyway, I'll let you ask questions, because I can go whichever way you want me to talk.
Well, I'd love to. We've got a clip of the Guy in Dubai trailer. I'd love to play that if that's all right, and then yeah, get your thoughts on it.
Yeah,
let's put it on.
He's on a mission to hunt down the most exciting experiences in this vibrant city.
Let's have a good time, yeah?
I reckon we're about halfway round.
What a beast!
That was incredible!
Get inspired. Get involved.
There's so much to see. I don't think I've had so much fun in my life. See you next time.
Guy in Dubai. Now playing in Emirates and Dubai TV.
So, I mean, like looking at all those things, and you talking about the journey, and you know, doing those pilot episodes. I mean, all those things look pretty fun, but like the work, and like I know from doing this with the Rad Season platform, the work that goes into that, it's not just, you know, you grab your camera and then, you know, it's automatically overnight success, and there's the whole kind of production planning and networking and making sure that, you know, you're lining up the right things and everything else, right? What was the first thing that you thought would be cool to do as like either the pilot episodes, or like what were the adventure things or the things that you wanted to showcase about Dubai? Was there anything that kind of stood out straight away and you thought, okay, this would make a really cool show, and then almost build the concept around that?
Well, I think initially I thought that I could just go and do crazy stunts and that would be entertaining. And I think the first pilot episode I did, they built a zip line in Ras Al Khaimah, which is, where I go hiking in the mountains. And there was you had to climb along a cliff, and then there's 3 zip lines, and it was really good fun. But that got us like a 3-minute video, and it was, looking back at it, it was pretty awful. But I think I still have these. There are a few things in my head that haven't yet been done yet. I wanted to do a certain stunts like base jumping off of the Burj Khalifa. Now being able to do that isn't about learning to base jump. Being able to do that is about learning how to get the powers that be to let you create such a massive
permission,
stunt.
right?
Yeah, to get permission, and to you need, if you think about it, if you work yourself back, in order for somebody to say, okay, we're going to let this madman do a stunt where they're going to do a base jump and so forth, where do you have to be for them to say yes? Well, you need a huge amount of audience already. People have to be behind you. You have to have a huge amount of credibility so that you're on decent channels and you've done a huge amount before. You also have to have been a really good skydiver and base jumper in order to try something like that. But you see, when I think about those things, I'm thinking about, for me to be in a position where I have broadcasters on and enough people who are behind me and follow what I do, to be like, yeah, we've got to see Guy in Dubai do this. That is the achievement, Yeah. And so the things like that. There are a few things that were really big on my list that I have done. I saw when I was in Abu Dhabi these powerboats that they race. They're the fast, ferocious ones, and you would have seen it in the video there. And I thought, well, I want to race the world's fastest one. And the world's fastest one is one of the fastest teams in the world is the Victory team in Dubai. They've won 24 world championships. And, those pieces of equipment are worth millions. And it's owned by the Sheikh himself. And they don't let anyone drive those. So the fact I managed to convince them to let me race it was a big tick off the bucket list. And so that.
How did you do that? How did you talk your way into that?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think basically I managed to convince them that my life wasn't that valuable anyway. So if it does flip over, it's okay. It helps obviously when you have a crew and you've got channels that this is going on and you're publicizing this, so they know that this is this isn't just letting somebody have a race. It's actually valuable to them. And then I also, pearl diving is a big thing here. So I learned to be a free diver, and then went pearl diving. I've become a paramotor pilot, and all of these things are things that I had in my mind, of things that I want to do. They were like mini visions, if you like, and I pinch myself when I'm actually doing them, because I'm like, I dreamed this up a few years ago, and now here I am. Here I am doing it. So yeah, it's really cool.
And would you spend some time learning some new skills as well, or would some of these things, you can just kind of wing it? And was there much preparation depending on what you had in mind?
Absolutely. Look, I never just wing it. Basically, I'm actually more risk averse than most people, in the sense that some people will just go and be like, let's just give this a go. I have to do it properly, and I want to make sure that I've really understood, what the risks are in this and so forth. So I'm not as much of a nut job crazy guy as I might appear, because I learn it properly. All of these things, I've gone through the courses. I've learned. Also, because I do a lot of learning new things, you get good at learning new things. So somebody can say something to me, and I can grasp it, you know. And also some of these things, they overlap, you know. A lot of these things, like I've got my boat license, a scuba dive license, and now I'm learning my airplane, getting my light sports aircraft.
Oh, nice.
A lot of that is navigation, and navigation applies in all of those. So I've learned it in one, and I can apply it somewhere else. Yeah, look, I really love learning new things that I can bring into my shows. And now now that I've got quite a few things that I can bring in, I love to kind of create episodes where I can go, you know what, like we could show this by, you know, taking a dive down there. We can show the history of this place by looking at a shipwreck, and then we can, you know, we can then fly over a castle. So I like to sort of build it in and play around with those.
And what are you now that you've got your flying license? I mean, are you looking to do something around that? Is that sort of what's next, or?
Yeah, so I'm still getting my my airplane light sports aircraft license. So I'm doing an episode around getting the process of getting a license, essentially. And that my paramotor I've been doing for a while now. And I'm also doing another episode on that. I'm actually creating a bit more out of the paramotoring because it's quite a cool adventure sport, because essentially you quite easily and nimbly you can get in between landscapes and cityscapes. You can get quite up close and personal. So when you're filming it, it creates, you know, epic shots. You know, as opposed to, say, skydiving, where it's really fast and then it's over. Or with airplanes where you can't really go low proximity, you know. So you know, you can go, you know, in a canyon or something like this with a paramotor. So that's quite cool.
Nice. And I guess the idea of the show is for both tourists coming over to Dubai, but then local residents as well. So it just kind of gives them the idea that these are the things that are possible and the adventures that you can have in the city and outside. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to sort of do three things. I wanted to entertain people, first of all, so that even if you don't live in Dubai or ever coming, that you will enjoy it. And you might say, you know what, I can try paramotoring here, or, you know, I can learn to free dive here. So I wanted it to be entertaining in its own right, first of all. Second of all, to be informational, so that people can actually get a bit of facts and understand what it costs, how long it takes, you know, where they can do it. So things like that. And then the last part is I wanted to, you know, ultimately I wanted it to be an inspiration. I wanted to inspire people who are stuck in their job, who still have these dreams in their head, to go, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do it this weekend. I'm going to go and learn that thing, or I'm going to go and I'm just going to get out there and do it. And, you know, I really do think that, and maybe the pandemic has taught us the lockdown has taught us this, is we need to live for now, because the future is not guaranteed, and our rights to be able to just go out and enjoy things are maybe not always going to be there. You know, we had it freely until the lockdown, and when it got taken away from us, I think people realized, wow, you know, that's a luxury to actually be able to go and do these things. So I do want to inspire people to just get out there and live life a little bit for today, because sometimes we work too much on the future and not enough for now. And so that's what I aim to do. But yes, it's useful for people who live in Dubai and people who are traveling here, because they can go and try these things themselves. Now what we're doing is working on a travel show, and the travel show is really for anybody, and it's not obviously just based here. We're doing countries all around the world. It's called Guy in the Sky. So it's I wanted to keep the theme. Guy in the Sky sort of represents that it is a travel show, and, you know, traveling in the sky, but it also is a road trip by paramotor within that country. So the paramotor element of it and being in the sky is more prominent. So essentially, you know, if I was to go, for example, to India, I would start off in one place, and, you know, I would take a paramotor trip from point A to point B, where I might meet with a local Maharaja who would teach me about some of the traditions and cultures of that area, and, you know, maybe something about the food. and then I then go from point B to point C in the paramotor. Maybe I've gone over some temples and over some forests or what have you. So we've got that great sort of visual shots. And then I go and meet people who have a very strange but local adventure that they like to do, or whatever that is, maybe a pastime sport or something.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what it is. It's a road trip by paramotor. So that's what we're working on to cater to the bigger audience beyond that.
And speaking of strange adventures, I mean, didn't you go to Ireland and you did, was it bog diving? I saw a clip of you doing that. That looked pretty crazy. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, so that's an example of, and actually that was our sort of pilot, if you like, our pilot episode for Guy in the Sky. That was our first travel show. And we had an itinerary set by the tourism board, which obviously I had some input on in terms of what we wanted to do. But when I got there, I found out about this thing called bog diving. And I thought, you know what, that's going to be hilarious on camera. And I was like, why didn't they organize this for me? And they thought, oh, maybe I wouldn't want to do it, or maybe, and I thought, it's this stuff that's golden, because it's these things that is quite uniquely Irish. I haven't heard of it anywhere else. And it's things like that I want to uncover and find. And so I realized that was really what I want to apply in the Guy in the Sky show, is try and find out what is a local unique adventure that they like to do, and get involved and represent the audience by being the guy who just goes and does it and expresses all the feelings and everything to the camera, so that they can almost be in the experience with you. But bog diving was I managed to sort of say, look, can we try this out? And we did it. And as it sounds, it's jumping in a pool of boggy mud water, and it stinks. It's gross. It's cold. It gets in your eyes and your hair. I mean, for weeks, I was like, "Oh, what's this? I got bog water." You get bog everywhere, and so it was entertaining, and it made the episode. It gave a real kind of uplifting moment to the episode. I don't know if it would be the same episode if we didn't have that moment there. So yeah, that taught me that I've got to find these hidden jewels, of adventures in these countries and exploit them.
And are there any places specifically in the Middle East, say, or UAE, that you think that you would like to kind of either do the show around or just discover next? I mean, is that? Yeah,
look, I've got a lot of plans to do more in Saudi Arabia. There's huge amounts of things going on there, but essentially the interesting thing about Saudi Arabia is, until about a year and a half ago, it was closed to tourists. You could only go there for Hajj or Umrah. So nobody has really seen much of Saudi. And funnily enough, when they started looking at it, they realized that there's amazing places there that a lot of Saudis haven't even seen, right? And when I say amazing places, I mean places like you've never seen before. They've got, first of all, they've got a huge coastline, which they also share with Egypt, in the Red Sea, which is probably the number one site for scuba diving. Clear waters, amazing sea life. So there's a huge amount that can be done there. But then they've got a number of ancient artifacts that have been there since about 3000 or 2000 BC, which are the same people that built Petra, and those type of stone temples that were built very, very similar to Petra. They have them all the way through Saudi, in the northwest and then downwards. And there's a particular area called Al Ula, which has some of the most magnificent ones, and rock types that you would only see in something like Star Wars. It's just almost like just wacky rock features. And there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of culture, and it's unseen and untouched. And we can all talk about our trips to the Maldives, but we can't all talk about our trips to Saudi. Not everybody can, anyway. So there's a lot to see there. There's a lot to discover as well that hasn't been discovered yet. it's also, one of the things I found quite surprising when I was there is it was an extremely friendly culture, very kind place. I was very welcome there. So I've been there 3 times now, and I look to do more there, basically.
Is there going to be a guy in Saudi coming soon?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is. Yeah. I'm looking to do more than 1 episode there, but at the moment, obviously the challenge, as we were talking about earlier, in terms of the pre-production, is getting the funding on. So I've got to get organizations in Saudi to believe in me and to do this, because I've got 2 episodes lined up. One of them was meant to happen already, but it's been pushed back to the end of the year, and one of them might happen sometime soon. But I want to build, Guy in Saudi, a sort of full episode, a full season out of it. I think there's enough to do there. It's a big country, and I think it's 16 times the size of the United Kingdom, so it's pretty big. So yeah, there will be a Guy in Saudi.
Good stuff. And what other projects are you working on, or do you have coming up this year? I mean, are you doing any kind of any more hosting and events, hopefully when they can all kick off again?
I hope so. As you know, events has taken a big hit, and a good part of my income was from hosting events and that type of thing, and a huge part of my enjoyment was going to fun events as well, and I hope they get back on their feet, hopefully this summer. So I hope so. It's very difficult to plan anything in this day and age. I take any plan that I have with a pinch of salt, because a lot of plans I have made have just not worked out for some reason. So, well, not for some reason, for a clear reason, which is we're all fighting this pandemic, and there's a lot of back and forth, and nobody knows what's going on. So I believe that right now you have to take each day as it comes, and I can plan a month out, but beyond that, I just hope everything gets better for everybody, and we can get back to it all.
Yeah, that's it. And what's the best way of people to reach out to you if they want to get in contact?
Yeah, well, the easiest way is on social media. So all of my channels are at Guy in Dubai. So, YouTube has got a lot of my videos there, so you can subscribe to YouTube or follow on Instagram. I try and get back to people if they do message. So I try and, if anybody has any sort of questions or queries, then I try and get back to people. If you want to watch the full show, we're on Amazon Prime. We're in 72 countries, so we're not everywhere, but hopefully we've covered your country. And we are on OSN for the Middle East. I believe we'll be on Tubi in anytime soon, which I think is global. So actually, you probably might be able to watch it there. And we're now also on about 8 different airlines, including British Airways, Emirates, Saudi Airlines, Etihad, and a few others. So hopefully my hard work will get my face in front of your screen somewhere. You'll be like, hey, that's the guy from the podcast. What's he doing here?
Cool. Well, Paris, thanks so much for your time, man. It's been really good chatting to you and hearing all your stories. And yeah, we're definitely going to be keeping an eye out on the next episodes. And really curious to see Guy in the Sky as well when that can hopefully take off. That'd be great. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. Honestly, it's a lot of anticipation there. So, but I will let you know when it's done. And thank you so much for chatting. It's been awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Paris. Cheers, man.
Ciao.